Welcome. I'm Dr. Laura Markham, and if you don't know me, my mission in life is to support parents. And I do that because the human beings that we're raising every day in our homes are the ones who create our future. And if we raise healthier, happier, more emotionally generous and loving human beings, we're going to have a better world. So thank you for joining me today. This webinar is how you can create a more peaceful home in 2023. And I'm going to share my screen with you. And let's start with what we mean when we say a peaceful home. What does create a peaceful home? Peace is not the absence of conflict or different needs or different opinions. Every two humans will have different perspectives, desires, and needs. But peace is when we navigate those differences harmoniously. So in a peaceful home, things get out of whack just like in every other home. And we notice when our harmony is disturbed in the home, and we bring love and emotional generosity, and we meet the needs that need to be met, our children's needs, our partner's needs, our own needs. And the overlay of frustration and misunderstanding melts away. And that's what was obscuring the underlying love and harmony all along. So harmony is restored. Now, that may sound very esoteric. It may sound nothing like what goes on in your home. So how do we put this into practice in our homes every day? What does it really mean for a human parent to create a peaceful home? It means we're cleaning up messes, honestly, both physical messes and emotional messes. You know, it would be great if everything worked perfectly for us, if our children were, cooperative and didn't fight with each other and always listened to us and did what we said when we asked. But that's not likely. They're little humans. Their brains are immature. They're still developing. They're self-centered because that is the normal state of human beings, to be self-referential before your brain is fully developed. And they're not adults. They don't think like adults, and they have a lot more energy than we do. So you can expect your kids to act like kids. Your home is probably not going to be smooth and peaceful all the time. Your home is probably going to be messy a lot, and also full of life and full of mistakes and full of learning. And that's all fine. There's nothing wrong with that being the way your home is. To create peace from that, all we need to do is start with ourselves, because your home can still be peaceful if you are peaceful inside. Peace is an inside job. You make the weather in your home. And when I say it's an inside job, that's a tall order. I know that's not an easy thing to do. Just this morning, I got probably 10 emails from parents who were saying things like, my kids are always fighting. My daughter is impossibly rude. I've been doing the things that you suggest in your newsletter, but my 6-year-old is still really difficult. He just can't control himself. And I hear these things from parents all the time. These are hard things to respond to. You can count on your child acting childish. But if you work on you, it makes a big difference in the tone in your home and in being able to restore harmony. Things will always go off track, but you can bring them back by how you show up. So what do you have to do? Well, you have to take care of yourself, because you can only give your family what you have inside. And if you're depleted, if you're running on empty, which so many of us parents do, especially after a couple of years of COVID, if you're running on empty, you've got nothing to give. So you have to start by taking care of you to be your best self, and treat yourself like someone you love. Put yourself back on your list to give to you, not just your children and your partner. Also, work on your triggers, heal your triggers that set you off, because if you don't unpack your baggage, you will dump it on your children. And then finally, give yourself support. It's easy to beat up on yourself when you end up yelling or doing something you're later sorry about, but beating up on yourself doesn't actually change anything. it turns out we feel worse about ourselves. So we're more likely to feel shame, and then we're more likely to yell at our kids next time. What changes us, what gives us the ability to show up differently with our family, is giving ourselves the support that we feel better inside, that we can offload that shame, that we can forgive ourselves, treat ourselves with compassion, take care of ourselves. And that's a lot of work in itself, but when we take care of us, we have so much more to restore peace when things get out of whack in our home. Peace is an ongoing balancing act. And how do you restore peace? You start with you. You calm yourself down, bring yourself back to center, and then you connect with your child, because until you connect, you have no influence. And then instead of trying to control your child with threats and punishment or even bribes, you coach your child. So you might empathize with them. That's coaching. Like, I know you want to climb all over me right now, and we need to fold the laundry. Let's do this with all your energy. How about you do this, and then we'll do that? So that's coaching. It takes a lot more energy from you, but ultimately your child is much more cooperative. So that, in a nutshell, those three things about how you restore peace, that's the approach I use to parenting. It's called the peaceful parenting approach. And you might wonder, well, everybody has an approach to parenting, or what's so different about this? If you go into any bookstore, you will find bookshelves full of books on parenting that give contradictory advice. And some of that advice is really good, and some of it is horrendous. Most of it is not based on research. The approach that I use, peaceful parenting, is based on research. And in fact, these three things, connecting with your child, coaching your child instead of controlling them, and your own self-regulation so you can be fully present and connected. Those are the three things that research shows. Research shows, various studies show, make the difference in your child's development. And I would add that the reason that they are the three big ideas in my approach to parenting are that they work. I've seen thousands and thousands of families transform. And there are tools and strategies that you could use for each one of these, but the point is they're research-based, they're parent-tested, and they work. They actually allow you to show up differently so your child can change. So let's look at these three things very quickly, because this is a short webinar. I know you're a busy parent. You don't have a lot of time. We're going to keep this short, but let's look at each of these three things just quickly. So calming yourself. We all know that you can't connect with your child or coach your child when you're not calm yourself. If you feel like you want to strangle them at this moment because they just whacked their little sister, you're going to have a hard time connecting and coaching. So we have to start by calming ourselves. Why is it so important that you self-regulate? Well, you're the role model, right? When we yell at our kids, it teaches them all the wrong lessons. They become yellers themselves. They don't cooperate as much. And frankly, the joy goes out of parenting because you're always in an adversarial place with your kids. The other thing that's really important to know about your self-regulation is that when you're more self-regulated, your child builds a better brain. Now, this is a baby, but children's brains are still growing into their 20s. So repeated experience will always change the brain. And when you show up more calm, when your child sees you get upset and then calm down, your child learns that it's not an emergency, but their brain learns, I live in a world where I can trust what happens. I can stay calm myself. It's not an emergency. What happens is that their brain actually grows differently. I'm not going to explain vagal tone and oxytocin and prefrontal cortex right now. I do that in the Peaceful Parent Happy Kids course, and I do some of it on the website, the AHA Parenting website. So if you'd like to learn more about all of the physiology and the brain changes, I would love to go over them with you, but today we won't take the time to do that. But just the important thing to remember is your child's brain depends partly on how they interact with you. And that, don't get scared because you yelled at them yesterday. That's not going to ruin them for life. Any repeated experience changes the brain. So if you're yelling at them every day, you need more support. That's all. You can't self-regulate unless you take care of you. We already talked about this a little bit. We talked about self-compassion. How about this as a radical idea? Talk to yourself like someone you love. Obviously, you need enough sleep. You need to move your body. We talked about healing your triggers, and you need to give yourself whatever support you need so that you can show up in a way that makes you proud of yourself as a parent. So that's calming yourself. Now, we could talk about it all day, but I just wanted to give you a little snippet. Connect with your child. Why is connecting with your child so important? Well, it turns out that children rely on us to learn to regulate their emotions. When you're self-regulated and you connect with your child, that's called co-regulation. Your child feels safe. They're better able to self-regulate. Even when they're upset, they're more able to calm down. And one of the most common things I hear parents asking about is, how can I help my child learn to calm down when they're upset? It starts, sorry to say this again, with you, but all with you calming down, but also with the connection with you. Here are some other things that are important about the connection that your child is getting as a takeaway. The message your child gets when they feel connected is that you're there for them, that together you'll figure it out, that they have backup, and that they're good enough, that they're unconditionally loved. Wouldn't it be an amazing world if every one of us had gotten those messages as children? Your connection with your child is part of what gives your child those messages. Here are a few power tools for connection. Empathy 24/7. Now, no one is empathic 24/7. It's just not possible because we're human. We get annoyed, we get frustrated, we didn't get enough sleep. But empathy 24/7 means you just increase your ratio, right? You don't have to be Mother Teresa. I mean, she wasn't a mother. I just want to point out, you don't have to be perfect. You can, as often as you can, be empathic with your child, and that restores the connection. Special time, one-on-one time. You want more info on special time? Go to the AHA Parenting website, ahaparenting.com. Put the word special time into the search box. You'll find a lot of tips and strategies for how to make special time work for you. Roughhousing and laughter. You know, laughter changes the body chemistry, reduces stress hormones, increases bonding hormones, makes everyone in your home feel better. Roughhousing every day is a must for everyone. And if you have anybody in the home who's a little anxious, your child, yourself, laughter, again, really important, reduces the stress hormones, reduces the feeling of anxiety. Connect before you correct. You know, we're parents, so we correct our children all day, every day. So if you can take the time to connect with your child before correcting them, you will increase that feeling of connection, bondedness. You'll strengthen your relationship with your child. And finally, time in. Time in is the alternative to time out. And I won't give you all the details now on how to do it or why science says it's so much better. But you can imagine if you make room for your child's feelings, instead of sending them off by themselves onto the naughty step, your child feels accepted, even when they have feelings that are things that they're a little bit embarrassed about or ashamed of, and they know you don't really love them to get upset that way, but they realize they're acceptable even when they have those inconvenient big feelings. So again, AHA Parenting website, put time into the search box, you'll find everything you want to know about it. And I should just say, it's 1,000 pages, the website. It's a public service. It's free to anyone. There are answers for most anything you could put into the search box. It's a lot to navigate because it's 1,000 pages, so it's not as focused as one of my books or the Peaceful Parent, Happy Kids course. It's not as focused. The burden's on you to navigate it, but you can find the answers you want there. And it's a public service. Please take advantage of it. So that's connection. So remember, restoring peace, the 3 big ideas in Peaceful Parents, for Peaceful Parents, Peaceful Parents, Happy Kids. Calm yourself, connect with your child, and coach your child. So let's talk for a few minutes about coaching. Coaching is giving your child support so they can meet your expectations. I'm not asking you as a peaceful parent to drop your expectations. You need to expect certain things of your child. They can't hit their siblings or throw their juice cup across the room or stay up till all hours of the night. You're going to set limits. You want them to be able to meet those limits and meet your expectations without threats, punishment, bribes, yelling. And the way you do that is you calm yourself, you connect, and you coach. So coaching means staying connected even when you set a limit. So I know it's hard to stop playing and get ready for bed. I bet you wish you could stay up all night, don't you? Right? That's just the empathy you give your child as you're insisting on your limit that, yes, indeed, and it's bedtime. 2 is to set up the environment so the child can thrive. Maria Montessori famously said, don't try to control the child, control the environment so the child can thrive. And that means getting enough sleep, not a lot of screen time, food when they need it, healthy food. It also means meeting the rest of their needs, emotional needs, needs for autonomy, needs for connection. Remember, kids don't need everything they want, like that latest gadget or even the cookie they want at this moment, or even your attention at this moment. But they do need something more. They need to have a home that is set up to support them getting their needs met, a home where they know you'll take care of them if they need it, that you're responsive to their needs, a home where they're allowed to have autonomy, right? A home with laughter and where there's always an adult who can peacefully intervene when the kids are having a hard time. So set up the environment so the kids can thrive. And emotion coaching is one of the most important kinds of coaching. And emotion coaching is helping children with the big emotions that drive their behavior, because once they can manage their emotions, they can manage their behavior. So kids who are emotion coached, there's a lot of research on emotion coaching. Basically, the kids come out better on every single indicator. And they are not only doing better in school and with friends, they are also more cooperative with their parents, and they're more successful for the rest of their lives. So emotion coaching, if you don't know what it is really being responsive to the child's emotions and connected and validating the emotion, even if you have to set a limit, just like I just did about bedtime. And again, you will find on the AHA Parenting website, in my books, and especially in the Peaceful Parent Happy Kids online course, lots of instruction on how you can learn to emotion coach. The final thing I'm going to say about coaching is preventive maintenance. Most parents will say, okay, but I'm trying to get out of the house and get my kids to school on time and get myself to my job on time. And all of a sudden my kid has a meltdown. I can't emotion coach then. What am I supposed to do? And the answer is preventive maintenance. By the time you're in that emergency situation, it's like your car has run out of gas. It's broken down on the side of the highway. You don't have a lot of options, right? But if you had filled the car with gas, if you had done the tune-up, the oil change, your car might not be on the side of the road. The same thing is true for your child in the morning. If the day before you had roughhoused with them, had some one-on-one time with them, if you had been able to take good enough care of you so that you could be responsive to them and be empathic when you set limits, they would feel a lot better. If they were having a hard time and you welcomed their emotions and did a time in with them where they were allowed to cry, it often starts with anger, but if you handle it in a responsive way, it turns into tears where they offload all those big emotions. And also routines. I skipped routines, but routines are super important to give kids a sense of security. If you did those 5 things, those preventive maintenance steps, I have never seen fail. They're not enough all by themselves. If you have a kid who is not neurotypical, you may need some work with an OT on sensory issues. As a for instance, you may need to do extra work for your child to give them the support they need. But these 5 preventive maintenance tools, I have never seen fail to keep kids out of the breakdown lane and to strengthen and sweeten your relationship with your child. Now, how do you do all of what I just described? You may be thinking, yeah, that sounds great. Who's got time for that? I understand. And it isn't even really time will find as much as it is who's got the internal fortitude to show up and be calm and patient for the 10th altercation between your kids today. And the answer is you can keep yourself out of the breakdown lane with preventive maintenance as well. What kind of preventive maintenance works for you? Well, laughter, we've already mentioned, is really helpful. But let's look at, for you, the rest of it, routines. If you don't have routine in your family, it's overwhelming. You get overwhelmed by everything being sort of up for negotiation all the time. So routines are really important to keep you sane. If you have ADHD, if you are a creative type who doesn't like routines, don't feel you have to do this, but find the parts of routines that will work for you, that do support you. Also, sleep and movement. We talked about your physical needs. Also, self-compassion. We've talked about that. Also, repair and redemption. I mentioned that when you yell at your kids, you feel ashamed. You have to go back and apologize and make a repair and make things better with your kids, because otherwise you walk around with this black mark you're holding against yourself and you feel ashamed of yourself, and then you just yell more. So learning to do repair so that it really makes a difference. And, it is possible to come back from a fight with a partner or a child in a way that strengthens your relationship. So that's one of the things that I teach. Mindfulness is just noticing what you're feeling, acknowledging it, and not acting on it, not reacting in that moment. And then finally, give yourself support, because if you just yell at yourself, it's not going to get better. Nothing is going to change in your family if you keep doing exactly what you're doing, right? This kind of parenting is so hard. And without support, you're not going to be able to change how you've been showing up. It just takes too much work to heal your own triggers, to learn to regulate your emotions, manage your frustrations. And as we've said, resolving to do better doesn't actually work unless you make a change. You need to actually take some different initiatives and give yourself support. And, the support has to be daily. It's sort of like brushing your teeth. You can't do it once and expect it to make a difference. It's like going to the gym. So you have to have support that shows up in your life on a daily basis. Remember, you can count on your child to act like a child, but when you show up differently, your child will change. If you repeatedly show up differently, your child's very brain will change and your child's behavior will change. So if you're not sure what I mean by support, I'll give you some examples. I'm hoping this talk was the inspiration you need for today, and that for the rest of today, you'll remember, what one thing could I do differently? Maybe I can connect with my child more this afternoon. Maybe I can take better care of myself for the rest of the day. Maybe I can coach my child to be their best self. Emotion coach, acknowledge their emotions, even when I'm setting limits, instead of threatening or bribing or punishing or yelling. So I'm hoping that this has been inspiration for today. But what about tomorrow? What about the next day? So I've mentioned the AHA Parenting website. I've also mentioned my books, Peaceful Parent, Happy Kids, Peaceful Parent, Happy Siblings, and the Peaceful Parent, Happy Kids workbook, which is really designed to help you work through your big emotions. It's not the theory's in the Peaceful Parent, Happy Kids book, but the workbook helps you work through your emotions and heal your triggers, and also teaches you how to set limits with your child and how to stay better connected with your child. But I have to say, the biggest bang for your buck is the Peaceful Parent, Happy Kids online course. One of my very favorite things to do in my job is read the evaluations of the parents who take this course every time, because they always say the same thing. They say they changed. They say they transformed. They say that they understood suddenly how important self-care is, and they started to be different to themselves, and they started to be different to their child. and their child changed, and that their relationship with their partner changed. Sometimes their relationships with their colleagues even changed, but mostly their child changed. And this is true even for kids who are very difficult. So as I said, you might need extra support for a child who's super challenging, who has special needs, but that doesn't mean that this doesn't work with them. This is the foundation. This kind of parenting is the foundation for raising a healthy child, no matter whether they're neurotypical or not, no matter what kind of a child, you could have a strong-willed child, you could have an introverted child. There are all kinds of labels we attach to children, but all children need what I have described. And this course is like the ultimate toolkit for creating parental habits that will make a difference in your home. Because really, living in a way you want to live is just a matter of developing the habits that are going to allow that to be easy for you. And it's also sort of like a boot camp because it's only 12 weeks long. And we take you through developing the skills you need. So, in week 2, you're developing the skills to manage your own anger. In week 3, you're strengthening your relationship with your child. In week 4, you're giving your child the best possible environment to learn to self-regulate. It's all about emotional intelligence. Week 5 is, how do you set limits effectively? And I could keep going on, but basically you're helping your child develop self-discipline and resilience while you're developing self-discipline and resilience. And there's even a week on siblings. So the course gives you structure, but it's also self-paced. So you can't fall behind. And the best part is you can take it again. You have lifetime access. You have lifetime access to the course. You can go look things up anytime. You can take it over and over again. And people often do, and they tell me that they get so much more out of it. Every time they take it, they get different things out of it. And another part of the course that you should know, we have a Facebook group that's been in existence since the end of 2015. That's how long I've taught this course. So there are people in this group who are extremely experienced with this kind of parenting, and everyone in the group is very supportive. So it's like a ready-made brain trust that you can go anytime and ask any question about parenting. And you can do that forever because this group of people are there to support you. And you yourself will see that by supporting other parents, also that you're becoming wiser yourself and more knowledgeable about this kind of parenting as you get experience with it. I've been teaching the course a long time now, as you can hear. And what I see on this Facebook group is that when you have a 3-year-old and you come onto the group, your child changes very quickly, even if they've been very challenging to live with. When you have an 8-year-old, the change is slower. Their brain is more developed, more rigidly set in patterns. But the 8-year-old also changes. It can take some time. It can take a couple of months. It can take 3 months of concerted effort of that parent being so patient. So it does take some work on your part. But what we see is the 8-year-old changes too. And believe it or not, the 13-year-old changes too. And of course, by the time they're 13, they're starting to look toward their peers more than they look toward us. So it's harder for your change inside you. It's harder for that to have an impact on your child. But even 13-year-olds, even 15-year-olds, even 18-year-olds want a good relationship with their parents. And we see that even the teenagers change. The course is really not designed for parents of teens. If you're having a hard time with your teen, I think you should have one-on-one coaching just because the stakes are higher with teenagers and there's so much water under the bridge and so much patterning that's already set up in your family. So I don't encourage someone who has a 13-year-old or older to take the course particularly. However, many of them have, and it still works for them. It just takes longer. But I'm delighted that you were able to join me today. And remember that you are your child's teacher. And that doesn't mean you have to teach them, because no matter what we try to teach them, the real lessons that our children learn from us are by how we show up, how we handle life, how we relate to them. And if you're struggling sometimes, which by the way, every parent struggles sometimes, please don't feel like you're the problem. You are not the problem. The problem is that parenting is hard and we have limited resources to use to do it. So the answer is to give yourself more resources. And I look forward to working with you to be able to help you to develop the resources that will help you to be the best parent you can be to your child. So watch for my email later today. Thank you for coming to the webinar. And I look forward to seeing you in the course. Have a wonderful, peaceful 2023.